creates, to make something big out of something little.
Well, as you'll know, I've always thought that we tried to go a bridge too far.
Inside this room, all of my dreams become realities, and some of my realities become dreams.
Okay, well, thank you. Hello, everyone, and thank you very much for coming. I'll start with introducing who's here today. I'll start with Natalie, because she was our first sort of official First Steps mentee 4 years ago. Sador, who was a mentee for Ben Wheeler over here, who's one of my fellows at the BSC and a great cinematographer, and who has been very supportive of the scheme from very early on. And we've also brought up Mahalia John up here, who runs a scheme called the Equity List, which is a very interesting program. So this is not just about First Steps, it's really about mentoring and how we can make a change in our industry and improve it for the better in the future. So yes, thanks for coming. Right, I'll start. Can you all hear me well? This sounds really weird from up here. So I just wanted to start with very quickly with mentoring and what it means to me and how sort of First Steps has come to life. I've always been a big fan of mentoring. I actually don't know why. Probably the reason was because I never had a mentor when I was young. Never had somebody I could go to with creative issues, creative problems, questions. Once you then start working, never had anyone that I could go to with other things that, get into the way, like, discussions about money, about payment, about, the psychological aspect of working in an industry that's quite demanding. I never had anyone that I could sort of talk to. And so mentoring has always been something to me that I thought was very important. And I've taken a lot away from it personally, just working with the people that I've mentored over the years. I started very early on. I think probably my first kind of, the first time I've actively taken people on set was during Sherlock in 2011, where we brought people on and sort of gave them a chance to be on set. And then I've continued that off my own back throughout the years. And I guess because I've been working on big productions or popular productions like Game of Thrones, people started emailing me and saying, I'd love to be on set. And I've tried to enable that as much as I can throughout the time. But I've always had that ambition for it to become a bigger thing, something that can really have an impact on people's lives. And when I did House of Dragon Season 1, I approached HBO and I said, look, guys, I really want to do this program that I've been sort of unofficially been doing for years, but maybe this time we can give more people a chance and enable more people to spend time on set and learn what this is all about. And they were incredibly receptive to the idea and very supportive. I was hoping that one of them would be here today, but they couldn't, unfortunately, because it would have been nice to hear their perspective on the whole thing. But they were incredibly supportive, and we ended up with having 14 people on that show over the course of a year, I think. Natalie being our very first one, actually. And she was amazing. And straight away, you know, everybody realized what potential she has, but also the scheme itself could have. And so we've just carried that on everything I've been doing. And I now have a couple of people helping me, Aga Zeliga, who's an operator, and Mitch Payne, who's a focus puller, who, you know, this is about the whole team being behind it, and we've been very lucky with having a crew. I've been very lucky with having a crew who really understands my sort of passion for mentoring, and they've been incredibly supportive of the whole thing. And then at the same time, Sador, you know, Ben was in touch about really wanting someone and supporting the scheme, and so Sador joined him on his job, and so it's been growing, and now, I don't know whether you know, but 2 weeks ago, we've been awarded the BSC Specialist Achievement Award, which is incredible because it's more of a, you know, I've been speaking to them obviously for a while, I've been with the BSC for a long time, but it's an amazing embrace, I think, of what we can achieve in the future, and to sort of openly give an award like this, I think, just means a lot to what can be done, and I'm incredibly thankful to the BSC for sort of setting that sign, you know, and sort of showing the industry what we can do. So with that, I'll just, maybe all of you introduce yourselves and have a quick word. And then I think we want to open this up to a Q&A quite quickly, because hopefully there's a lot of questions out there. So yes, do you want to, Natalie, do you mind if we do the first steps, and do you want to start? And then
my name is Natalie Brown. I was Fabian's first trainee on his scheme, so it was a tiny bit, I think you'd agree, a little bit of a work in progress with the first couple of us. But it was really amazing because you could go in there and almost treat it like it wasn't a mentoring scheme. You could treat it like it was a job if you wanted to, or you could shadow Fabian into parts of the set that you wouldn't go to if you were there as a trainee. And it just really gave you the opportunity to sort of see what the job really was, but also to like talk to people who had so much experience and really wanted you to succeed. And I think the fact that it was on something as huge as House of the Dragon really sort of got you in there when it was slightly like high stakes, but in a good way, you know, so you felt like everything you were doing really mattered. But then it also sort of taught you to take that same kind of care and attention with any subsequent jobs you ended up getting. And I was really lucky because a lot of the jobs I got in the couple of years afterwards, I got through contacts I met while on House of the Dragon, and so I was really lucky. It really helped me get a network, and I think it was just an amazing first step, not to use that term. So, yeah.
Brilliant. So my name is Sador. I was paired up with Ben, and really fortunate, actually. So a little bit about my background. I was born in East Africa in a small country called Eritrea, so moved over to the UK when I was 5. So for me, not knowing the language, not knowing anything was very, very difficult, and I found film and TV as my outlet in terms of learning English, and that passion kind of stayed on as I went into high school and also college. I decided then to go to university, as again, like many people where I'm from, they don't have the kind of the networks or the connections. So I went through the university step and graduated, and that's when, during that time, kind of built up my network and because I didn't have anyone, I thought I started doing some videography and started shooting my own stuff, started submitting some of my short films to festivals just as a way to kind of put my name out there. And I think it worked because I built up enough a network to where I was connected with Fabian. And then that's when he approached me to work on This Town, which is it's a very special show to me because it's all set in Birmingham and Coventry, and obviously growing up in that area, it was brilliant to kind of work on a show that's based around the areas that I grew up. So very fortunate to that. I didn't know anything about camera training, like, at all. So one of the first things that Ben told me was, if you don't know anything, don't pretend like you do, you know? So that was very, very key, and it allowed me to kind of take my time, and there was a lot of jargon that I wasn't aware of. But over time, I kind of built up my network and built up my experience to where by the end of the scheme, I felt really, really confident in my ability as a camera trainee, and subsequently move on to work on other shows and also commercials, started dipping my toe into that, but still take all the skills that I've learned from the scheme and apply it to my own filming and my own videography. So yeah, so thank you for, I guess, changing the trajectory of my life. Really fortunate because of the networks I've done. I've met so many amazing people. Some of them are in the crowd today, so hello to you guys. Yeah, so hello, I can see a couple of waves. Yeah, so thank you to Fabian and the First Steps into Cinematography scheme. It's amazing, especially someone like myself who has no connections. Yeah, so I'll give it over to Ben.
What was one of the useful things for us as well is when we were setting up This Town in Birmingham, it was a Stephen Knight show, and he feels very strongly about Birmingham, is super passionate about his hometown. And so it was key for us to bring in people who were local as well, who could help to build that network, I guess, in that area. So, you know, that's why we reached out to Fabian and said, who do you have locally? And Sador turned out to be utterly brilliant. And yeah, I mean, literally one of the best trainees we've ever worked with. And I think a lot of that comes from having the passion for it. Clearly he works a lot and does his own projects, but he asks questions. And for me, when I'm looking at a trainee or a mentee, then it's about people who ask questions and asking the right questions. And it can be very difficult and intimidating on set because we're all so busy and we're running around and we're up against time and schedules and people shouting at you all day. Sador had an uncanny skill of asking questions at exactly the right time. Yeah. And it's not really something you can teach, but somehow
so
Sador did that brilliantly.
Or something, that's a great way to ask. But if you see him full force, I just avoided him like the plague. You know, there's no need to get anywhere near him because he's fully working. But
that wasn't a skill I had.
So comes time with practice, I guess.
So yeah, I mean, I think it's an utterly brilliant scheme, and yeah, thank you, Fabian. I mean, I discovered it on Instagram and reached out to Fab and asked how we could help and what we could do, and subsequently we're looking at trying to set up some similar things that can run alongside for maybe younger kids, to try and get younger kids involved as well. So long may it continue and grow.
Yeah. Nice. Sorry. My name is Mahalia. I run something called the Equity List, which is separate to First Steps, but it's all to do with mentoring. So we are a volunteer-run mentorship scheme that helps people of colour get into the film industry, because our industry is very nepotistic, and the way a lot of people get in is a family friend or an uncle or your parents get in, and we aim to facilitate that connection for people of colour who don't have those connections. So someone will come to us and say, I want to work in camera, or I want to work in the art department or the sound department. And we go, okay, great. Here is someone who already does that. We link them via email, and then together they figure out what they want that mentorship to look like. It's completely flexible, completely dependent on how much time the mentor has, what kind of support the mentee wants, and then the difference between real life and our mentorship scheme is we are always there. So if a pairing doesn't work out, people can come back to us, and we run workshops, and yeah.
I mean, that's great. You know, all of that. I always think that the more support there is, the better. You know, there's no There is no competition when it comes to mentoring. I think the more we can do, the more everyone can do, the better, right? And the more reach we will ultimately have to as many people as possible. One thing that we're doing right now, and it's a long road, like you said, it's a nepotistic industry, unfortunately, and you have to overcome a lot of issues. And we've been working at that very hard. It takes a lot of time. The one thing that I'm doing right now, I'm having a lot of meetings with studios and companies about actually putting something into place that. The idea for First Steps was always that it wouldn't be, and we've actually been talking about this for a long time because Natalie had a great. It's not a trainee, so for us it's not a trainee as such, because the people that can apply to First Steps could be anyone. You can have 0 experience, you can have 5 years of experience. It doesn't matter. We really look for the right person with the right attitude. It's all about the person rather than your CV. I'm not interested in CVs. It's about the person and the character and the mentality. I think that's the most important thing to me, because that's something that can change a crew internally into something positive, and that's what it is for me. And so I'm trying to get to a point where First Steps is almost, or any other scheme for that matter, is something that's already in place before production starts. So I'm talking to studios about having a fund for First Steps mentees or any other scheme mentees before they even start, because they're not there to replace our normal camera trainees. They're in addition to the camera department. And it's purely set up for supporting those people to, either get a first taste of what it is to be like in the camera department, or if they have experience, how it is to work on a bigger project. Whether it's a BBC show or an HBO show or a film. We currently have 3 on Venom 3, which I'm doing right now. So it's a whole range, and I think that's for me sort of the ultimate goal, is that I don't have to do the fighting anymore at the beginning of the job, because sometimes you're on jobs where people understand the program straight away and they're really supportive. Other jobs, it's a fight, and you really have to fight for even getting one person on the job, and that's a real shame. And I hope that we can get to a point where that's not the case anymore. So, but I think that's enough. Is there any questions out there right now before we talk about some other stuff? Anyone? 1, 2. Just lift your hands up quickly.
And then you.
From the perspective of any cinematographer who's interested in doing more mentoring, can you speak more to the funding in terms of, like, there's a bit of an ethical problem having someone on set shadowing unpaid, even if you cover their expense out of your own pocket, sort of thing. And second part of the, what can be done to kind of provide that funding, I guess, or how can we speak to productions? And quickly, the second, how do you structure what you want the mentee to do? Because as you say, they're not a trainee. They're kind of, but like, do you give them, like, I've tried giving people tasks, like write an article in the style of, what kind of stuff do you have them do, and how do you structure? Thank you.
They're both very good questions. So firstly, it's never been unpaid. So whether before it became First Steps, I was covering the cost myself, because I know that people have got lives and people have to, you have jobs and you can't just take time off work. So if I had someone come out for a couple of days, then I would help them. Now, it's something that I speak to production about, and they get paid for the week. We normally have people on for 2, 3, 4 weeks, and they get paid for that, which is obviously important. And yes, it's a fight. I mean, I've been fighting with, believe it or not, but I'm doing a $150 million movie right now, and now I had to fight for 3 people to do 3-week project placements, and what they get paid in that time is absolutely nothing for the budget we have. But you have to overcome the mentality of that production, and that's mainly what I've been fighting for, is to overcome that mentality. Because, like I said, this is not for. We shouldn't see this like the company shouldn't see this as a financial burden, because it's not. I mean, and we can cater to anyone of any range of budget. You know, if you're doing a smaller job for a few weeks with a smaller budget, you can have one person for 2 or 3 weeks. Even that helps, you know. On House of the Dragon, where we had a $180 million budget, we had 14 people over the course of, you know, so you can really cater to all of those budgets, which I think should really make it then very easy for anyone to have at least one person on there.
Can I answer the second question?
Yes.
Actually, because I was the first one, I think I had a little bit more control over what I was doing, because like Fabian said, I wasn't the trainee. There was already a trainee. I was an additional person, and so because I actually already worked for 5 years in a rental house, I wanted to more focus on getting on-set skills, but it was really up to me to sort of drive what it was I wanted to do and when. For example, the last week I decided that I wanted to see more exactly what Fabian did, so we went and did like a pre-lighting, but that was, you know, I was the one that was sort of asking that, and I think that's a really good way of doing it, because if you put the power in the person's hands, then they can really get the information that they really want to get out of it. And so it means that when you're going on to your next job, or even just looking around for your next job, you've got the skills that you wanted to get from the mentee scheme. So I found that really helpful.
I guess it's similar on our project. We had, it was a 2-camera show, but we only had a budget for 1 trainee. So we kind of brought Sador in to try and be a second trainee, if you like, and try and learn the ropes, but without any of the pressure that trainees are so often under. And at the moment, there's been a big push against, which is quite right, that trainees have often been in charge of monitoring and Video Village, which isn't right at all. So we're trying to kind of get away from that a little bit more, take the pressure off Sador, and just say, you know, come along, act as a trainee, but equally don't take any of those pressures, come and speak to us, mix with anyone, go and spend some time with the Sparks if that helps, you know. Just trying to make it as broad as possible, that learning, I guess.
It was definitely a baptism by fire for me, because obviously I had no idea what I was doing, essentially, and especially on our show, it was very difficult. As you can remember, the first week was like torrential rain, so me not knowing what to do and just rain pouring down on me was very, very difficult. But the team is so supportive throughout, and they kind of treat you like any other trainee with a little bit more help. And by the end of it, you feel much more confident in your ability. Was doing everything, even the video stuff, which I know we've got someone else to do. But
got very good at.
Yeah.
That's great. And then just to add to that, I mean, that's basically what I've said to everyone who started with us. You know, what do you want to do? How do you want to spend your time? I mean, normally I would say, you know, spend at least a week with the camera team, so you get to know the equipment and you get to know the sort of workflow and everything. But if you're then more interested in lighting, for example, and you have more lighting questions, then feel free to spend some time with me in the tent, and you can ask me anything, anytime. Most of our guys have all been very clear, like, you know, the last 3 I had, they all said, you know, I really want to sort of learn the ropes and start from the beginning, so they just spend most of their 3-4 weeks with the crew, and obviously they came to me every now and then, but they mainly just learned, you know, the basics. And what it really gives you, like you said, you know, it gives you the confidence to be on the set. You learn how to speak to people. You learn how to speak to the crew, and I think that's one of the main things. You know, it's not, like I said, for me, it's not about your CV. It's not about what you know. It's about how you are, and I think to me, that's the key. Thank you.
Mahalia, cool. Could you also speak to the similar thing in terms of like funding and how you're supporting people who apply for your program, and also give any examples on like I guess what the the process is in terms of like, you know, any success stories from like start to finish, like where somebody might start and where they can hope to end up, and also have you got any relationship with Screen Skills? I don't know if you're familiar with them. In terms of like high-end television, like, can you speak to some of that?
So that was so many questions. What was the first one again?
Funding.
Okay, so we are entirely volunteer run. It's me and 3 other, and sometimes 6 other camera assistants. We all do it between our own work. Everything we pay for comes from our own wages because we are very small and we want to be flexible. In the future, we are looking to get bigger and be privately funded, but we don't want to be government funded because we don't want to have to check boxes and we don't want progress reports and we want it to reflect how the industry actually looks. Second question? Oh, success stories. Oh, we've had some really, really amazing ones. I think probably the one that springs to mind the most is Harry Hitchens and Christina Pringle, who were a directing pair, and they had no idea who each other were. We paired them up, and they are now best friends. Harry produces everything that Christina directs and vice versa. They just got a film into the BFI Film Festival, and it was this beautiful friendship and relationship that came out of us pairing 2 random people together that we thought would be a good fit. Ian Blackburn was interested in lighting, and we set him up with Chris Brimfield, who is a spark and a gaffer, and they got on really well. Ian is now a fully fledged spark and gaffer himself, and he always comes back to us, just little messages saying that he's very grateful, which really helps us because we are doing this off our own backs. And yeah, and Screen Skills, we don't have a relationship with them, but we are open to it, and we are always things like this are great for networking and meeting new people and expanding our network, because, yeah.
So, I think that's great. And I think what that shows as well, and I think that's something with First Steps too, is because I think what we do is that I've been a mentor for many organizations like BAFTA. I'm a mentor for the ASC, and I've been doing this for a long time. So, for example, the mentoring criteria for the ASC is that within a year, I have to speak via Zoom, in person, or email with my mentee at least twice over the course of a year. That's my criteria. It's a great program. I've been doing it for 6 years. Doesn't really it doesn't help that much, It's not like a long-term thing. For me, First Steps is something that, Natalie and I, we've been in touch for 4 years now, right? And we will be in touch. She can be in touch with me for however long she needs me or wants me to be, And that's the same with Aga or Mitch, And that's the same for everyone who's been with us. And also, I think the difference is that I'm not slagging off the ASC mentorship, by the way. Just if anybody watches it, I love being a mentor for the ASC. But there's a difference, right? And the other thing is, I think that with Screen Skills, for example, they have a huge range of people, but they have a lot of the people who work for Screen Skills are people who've never been on a set. Okay, we have on-set. I've been on a set. This is my 28th year this year. Okay, I've been on a set for a long time. I know how the set works. I know how the people on the set work. When I choose the people who email me, I'm pretty confident I can choose the right people who will be right for this. Yeah, there's always, it's never that easy. But I know what those people are looking for. I can give them what they're looking for. With Screen Skills or other corporations, bigger setups, yes, they offer you the opportunity to come onto set and to do certain things, but it might not be in the right department. You might not be the right person for that job or for this job. Whereas I think with people like us, hopefully, you will get actually what you're looking for, and you will get that long-term support, which I think is more important than anything else.
Fabian?
Oh, wait, there's one first.
Right, okay. Do you want to go first?
Oh, go ahead.
All right. What could be done to support you guys? How can not just the industry, but what do you need support? How can maybe manufacturers, how can you be supported? Because I know it's difficult to get funding, and I understand the tick boxing if you start selling yourself to public sector potentially or academic institutions, so I understand that very well.
Yeah, for us, whatever we've done so far, I've paid for, which is totally fine. I do this because I love doing it. So, but obviously now it's been growing and stuff. For me, it's all about getting more people on set. right? Because that's something that I love doing. For that, I don't need funding. I just need the studios and the, to understand what I'm doing and to support that. And hopefully that's what I'm working really hard for right now. We've been doing some online kind of sessions about how to present yourself with your CV, for example, because we've had so many CVs coming in, a lot of them were terrible. And so we set up some meetings about how to present yourself in a CV, what's important to us, things like that. And we're going to start doing some workshops and things. I've been working with Ari for a long time. They're very supportive, so they give us their space so we can do workshops. I mean, like I said, anything helps. It's not about money. It's more about, the openness of people, of wanting to help. That's, for me, really, that's the key thing. The money really doesn't matter.
The money would help us.
There you are. The money would help.
Yeah, funding is something we are looking for long term, and then access to spaces and equipment, like studios, or just like a nice space to hold a networking event. And I think a big thing that we're pushing for at the moment is mentors, because mentees are very good at talking to each other about the scheme, going, there's this thing that's really helped me out. A lot of people who work in the industry don't think that they can be a mentor, so a lot of the conversations that we've been having this weekend are, well, what do you do? And they say, oh, well, I've been a loader for 5 years. Okay, well, you know more than someone who has never worked in the film industry. That's perfect. Like, we have people who are still trainees who are mentors to people who are just getting in, because they know exactly what the industry is like as a trainee right now. So if anyone in the room wants to be a mentor, please sign up. I know Lorenzo's already one, and there are a few people in here as well. We'd really appreciate it. Yeah.
You guys want to add anything?
I guess support them, support the great work that First Steps are doing, so they can obviously help more people like us. But that's the main thing, really. So, like myself, I was really fortunate, and if more people can get into it, that would be brilliant.
I mean, the one thing that we're looking for mentors, right? Because that's not just DPs, but I'm looking for crew, focus pullers. The thing for me is, I think the most important thing which I've learned over the years is that it also takes a certain person to be a mentor. Not everybody is a good mentor, right? And I think that's a decision you all have to make for yourselves, is, are you going to be a good mentor or not? And there's nothing bad about not being a mentor. But I think that's one of the tricky things that we have to figure out right now in what's happening in the times that we're in is, you can't just be a mentor to tick a box. You need to be a mentor because you're good at mentoring and giving something to people. I've had it a couple of times. I've worked with people like that who weren't good mentors, and they actually do more damage than good. So I think it's about being, of course, the more mentors we can have, the better, because I'd love to. We have a huge list of people who want to come on set, and the more people I can put out there to give them that experience and that and the confidence and the knowledge, the better. But it can also be a negative thing. So it's just you have to be very careful of how you approach that. There was a question back there, I think.
Yes, a more simple question. Is this opportunity open to people from international backgrounds at all?
So it's open to anyone and everyone. There's no, like I said, no experience, no age restrictions, no backgrounds. I mean, for me, First Steps is a completely diverse scheme, which includes everyone. Doesn't matter how old you are, where you come from, what you are. But we're obviously focusing on diversity. It's open to anyone. I mean, we just did a film in Mexico with a friend of mine who's one of our mentors. He did a film in Mexico. I've been having meetings with people in the States and Canada, which is a very difficult subject to get into over there because of the unions and stuff. But in Europe, we're very lucky that it is very open. So yeah, it's anyone. Saying that though, obviously, and that happened with Sador, is we want to support the local areas. You don't want to do a film in Birmingham and then bring in people from everywhere but Birmingham. So I think supporting the local industry is very, very, very important to me, and always has been. So being a German in England, obviously supporting the local areas. But maybe that's the reason why. But yes, in general, it's open to everyone.
And something you said about like fitting everyone in their right roles. This, I understand, of course, is mostly cinematography. But is there any other roles open for like other areas of cinema?
Well, so this year we're opening up First Steps, DIT, Grips, and Sparking, which obviously till now have been areas which are very male-dominated. So, but on Venom we had 3 amazing female Sparks, and we've had a couple of amazing female DIT trainees. So that's something that's going to happen this year, hopefully. And so yeah, we'll try and open it up as much as we can.
I would say as well, if you are selected to be a First Steps mentee, and let's say you're placed with the camera department, because you're so new to the industry, doesn't stop you from kind of changing that. So let's say you've had your first taste and you kind of have an affinity for location or grip or gaffer. Because you're so new, it might be an opportunity for you to kind of diverse and swap over. Because, as I say, it's a great learning opportunity, so you don't want to limit yourself. I was quite fortunate because I really like the camera department, and I kind of really gravitated towards that. But I was really encouraged to talk to the whole department as a whole, from sound to art to props. So, yeah.
When I was doing it, I was able to spend time with the gaffer, with the key grips. I didn't feel like there wasn't a department I could socialize with and get to know, and I think it was really important for people that want to apply that they don't have to feel like you're the most passionate person, like you go to the cinema every week, you know, all that stuff. I think you should be passionate, definitely, but it's okay to go on and then realize, oh, I really like this role, or I really like that role. You know, it's being a trainee is more about discovering yourself and the industry, and it's okay to go in and discover maybe it's not for you. And I think sometimes with a lot of these trainee schemes, people sort of made to feel bad if maybe that they realize it's not for them, or maybe realize a different department's for them. Like, that's okay. I think you just need to be passionate about knowledge and finding out more rather than anything else.
I think there's a lot of roles in our industry that people aren't aware of when they're coming into the industry in the first place, and something we talked about earlier. And you know, most kids, for example, know about a cinematographer, they know a sound guy, they know a director. Not many people necessarily know about a set builder, a carpenter, many other roles, grips and sparks. And so I think exactly that. I think you come into this via us, via First Steps, but you can find out so many different solutions to where you might want to go. There's so many options and so many jobs that people aren't aware of, I think, in our industry. I think if you've got a passion for the industry, you probably already know most of them, but you know, part of what we're trying to do, I guess, is trying to bring people in who aren't as aware as some others, and I think that's a really important role as well. Maybe kids who are less academic, you know. I think it's a brilliant industry once you're in, but it's very difficult to get into, as we all know.
And also finding out not knowing what you want to do early on is better than wasting years of thinking this is what you want to do. So it can help, and it can be helpful in any way.
Because it's definitely not for everyone, and that's okay. Not everything's for everyone, you know.
Exactly. Anyone else? Over there. Thank you.
Hi there. What's the most important thing for you to look into a mentee if they're applying? What's the most important thing for you?
For me, well, like I said, it's really the character. So we normally ask you to send a CV, but also the most important thing is like a letter of why you know, who you are and why you would be suitable for this. And a lot of the times in that letter, you can really sort of see where a person comes from and who they are and how, you know, so it's like I said, it's the character. It's what you can read in between the lines and, you know, the journey they've been through. You know, we've had a girl on Venom now last year who's been struggling for 5 years to get into this industry, to get into the camera department because of her ethnicity and her background. And it was, you know, she had a really, really tough 5 years, but she sounded like an amazing person, and she was incredible, and she was an amazing trainee, lots of knowledge, and I think what it gave her was the confidence after that struggle for 5 years not to give up, and she had that confidence back, and I think she's going to do great. So it's really that I'm looking for, you know.
Why don't you say what was your cover letter? What was in yours?
So I emailed Fabian first, again, just giving him a brief introduction about myself and my background. I sent my CV, but I also attached my showreel and some of the films I worked on, because for me, I think it's so hard with a CV to kind of show your creative flair, so I wanted to kind of stand out slightly, so I thought sending work that I've done outside of the conventions of a normal film set might kind of stand out, and I'm not sure if that worked or not, but maybe you can answer that, or you can answer that, because I think you CC'd him into the email, perhaps.
I mean, I think that's exactly it. You know, you just want to be, in this industry, you have to stand out somehow, right? You have to show that there's so many, when I did this the first time around before House of Dragon, I sort of, you know, people emailed me and asked me, can they come on set and stuff, and I try and reply to everyone and start a conversation, and I got those people on set. With House of Dragon, we actually did an Instagram post, and I think I had 450 applications in a week, you know, and it was just me at the time, and, you know, so it was quite a task to go through all of that, and, you know, and so yes, you have to stand out, you know, and who you are as a person is always going to be the most important thing, so.
My cover letter was a story about why I wanted to work in the camera department, and it was how I watched The Matrix 3 times in a row when I was on holiday, and then at the end of the video version of The Matrix, which is a clue how old I am, they had a featurette about how they did bullet time, and just, I think mostly about the stunt works, to be honest, and I just thought that looks really fun, that looks like a really fun job, and that sort of started it for me, and that was when I was 8, so I sort of just added that story in. And I remember asking you when I first got in, like, was that an interesting story? And you were like, yes, it was. So, yeah.
I guess, you know, you don't have to have shot a load of stuff and have a showreel. It so happens that Sador did, and he clearly demonstrated a passion, but I guess it's, you know, it's having a bit of passion, but also having drive, determination, wanting to learn, and also showing up, you know, because it's tough. We do long hours. They can often be difficult places to get to, but so you need someone who's committed as well. So you need to, I guess, demonstrate that commitment as much as anything. And there's plenty of people who want to do it, so it would be terrible for us to take someone on who didn't turn up after day 2, you know. Yeah. So, yeah, I'd say that's very important too.
Yeah, because I did I know, like you normally said, it's 2 or 3 weeks, but I was quite fortunate to do the whole run, which was like several months, about 5 months in total, I believe. So to be committed for 5 months was a lot, and I completely fell in love with it, and yeah, hoping to continue on my journey down the camera department.
Can I just ask Ben quickly, for other people here who might want to be mentors, what do you think it's given to you personally, like being a mentor?
I think it's that thing, like you touched on when we started, is that I didn't have any of this when I started out. You know, I went to a film workshop when I was very young, which, funny enough, was just up the road. But beyond that, there wasn't really anything. And so I guess it's that I've worked incredibly hard to get where I am now, and I'm very proud of that. But I want to give back. I want to give something to other people who don't have those opportunities. And you know, as we said, it's an industry of nepotism and who you know, and it's very important for us to try and expand that and open that out and offer up what we didn't have, I suppose. It's, you know, I guess that's the thing, you know, and I love seeing Sador progress, and even just watching him progress on our set was phenomenal, you know. It was, and it's very rewarding. It's a great thing to do. It's rewarding for us, and it's obviously very rewarding for someone like Sador. So, yeah,
I think that's the most.
I can't recommend it highly enough, to be honest.
That's the most amazing thing. And I remember when on House of Dragon, Natalie came back as a daily after she had finished her mentorship, you know, for the next 8 months or so, which was great, you know, every time. And then she came back, but as a fully fledged trainee rather than the mentees. So that was,
And that was actually quite good because I got to meet some of the other mentees that came after me and sort of talk to them about it. So that was actually quite interesting, I felt. But yeah.
We've got 15 minutes left if there's anyone, any other questions from anyone?
Testing. So this is a question for the mentees. What kind of things did you guys struggling at first? And, do you guys have any other future advice for filmmakers or mentees that just want to partake?
I guess the most difficult thing for me when I started was actually the sort of transport, getting in there, because I didn't own a car at the time, and we were at Leavesden, so I had to get the train in. So it was just sort of figuring that out was quite difficult, and also we weren't given a map of the studio, so it was I don't know where T stage is, stuff like that. So that was probably my first struggle, but it was having the confidence. Once you did that first day, having the confidence to why didn't I just ask someone, But I think once you do your first day, you get that confidence to be these are all just ordinary people who are more than willing to you can shoot them a quick text and they'll explain everything to you. So I think the main thing you need, that you gain from doing this, is the confidence. And then I think the second thing was trying to be more watchful, because a lot of the time, it is a working set, it is a very busy set. And so sometimes you won't be able to ask questions, not because they won't answer it, but because everyone's really busy. So being able to learn by just standing back and watching what everyone's doing, and that's not even just in your own department. And it gives you that ability to sort of try and anticipate what people need. So I think that was probably the most difficult thing. And to be honest, I didn't really get that down until I was finished, and I managed to perfect that when I came back. So that was the most important thing.
I think for me, film jargon, so what things meant, was quite difficult for me to kind of wrap my head around. But the biggest one was probably confidence. I remember I always used to ask my loader, is this okay? Is this what you do? And having to always rely on them, but eventually as the time went on, you become more confident and you start preempting what things might happen. So if you can see a cloud looming over, you start getting some bags ready, knowing what your loader has in their bag. So when you see her struggling or him struggling with something, you can quickly grab it without having to ask you. And that puts you in good stead moving forward, because it shows that you're reliable and that you're kind of in tune with your loader. That took a few weeks to get, but by the end of it, I kind of started reading people's minds and started reading Ben's mind as well, what he likes. If he's frustrated, get him a cup of coffee, just so I know that he's okay. And
a lot of coffees.
Yeah.
A lot of coffees.
A lot of coffees and teas, yeah.
I guess that language thing is, we have such stupid names for stuff half the time that, it's not anything we use in real life. So getting past that is a big step. And obviously people will try and wind you up and ask you to ask for stupid things. But yeah, you picked up things incredibly fast. Yeah. And, listening, I think, is an absolute key, is, just having your ears open all the time, listening, observing, trying to take in as much as you possibly can. I always like people, like you say, who can preempt a little bit. They start to learn how you work and thinking for themselves. So it's really crucial.
And I think also, the thinking for yourself part is really important, because you'll work with one DOP and they'll say, this is how it's done.
Yes.
And you'll work with someone else and they'll say, this is how it's done.
Not how it's done.
Well, exactly. And so you kind of have to be able to take that and not feel sort of downtrodden and sort of just think, well, this is how they want it, and then so that's how I'm going to do it, and sort of not get in your head about those sorts of things. Because sometimes I think people, especially in this industry, feel like they have to blag, and I think it's having that pressure off and not feeling like you have to sort of pretend you maybe know more than you actually do, and just being like, I actually don't know. So if this is how you're telling me how to do it,
I think that is one of the most crucial things, as you said at the start, don't ever be afraid to say you don't know how to do something. If you say you know how to do it, then we'll expect you to know. If you don't know, and then, you know, the chances are you'll get it wrong. If you don't know, ask a question. We're all here to answer questions for you. It's not, you know, it can feel an intimidating place, a film set, I think, but generally, we're all pretty nice, and we're trying to help, and we want to help. And yeah, I think the biggest mistake someone can make is pretending you know something when you don't, because no one's going to call you out for not knowing it, but they will if you do something completely wrong. So, yeah, it's probably the biggest thing, I would say.
Very true. We've got time for maybe 2 more questions. Over there, and then there, and then there. That's 3 questions. There you go.
What is something that you do for safeguarding of your mentees and mentors? Because bullying is quite a big issue in this industry. It's not always seen, so quite a lot of time, like in a camera truck, a loader can bully a trainee and it's not seen by anybody else. So what is something that you do or that you give your mentees and your mentors the tools to safeguard each other and step in when you need?
I mean, that's obviously a huge thing, and that's something that I'm still learning too. We had a huge problem actually on House of Dragon, not with our mentees, but with some of the trainees that I got involved in. But there came a point where it was kind of beyond my capabilities, and so the 3 of us, Aga and Mitch and me, were actually doing courses now this year that help us train for those things. And obviously, I'm saying to everyone who's joining our scheme that, you know, anything that, you know, you can come to me with anything. You know, anything I can help to protect and do, let me know. But that's obviously limited. I mean, so I can only know about certain things when that happens. But like I said, that's why I think the most important thing is that you have a crew that I know has the same mindset as I do. And so I've always been obviously very careful with the people who have been mentors or have been around me, like my crew, who I've been working with for a long time. They all understand me and they understand my passion, and so they're all very careful and helpful with our mentees. But yes, that's absolutely a problem that needs to be addressed somehow.
The culture definitely comes from the top, and because you're such a lovely person, it usually isn't like because you like to foster a personal relationship. I have Fabian's number. Like, I can message him about anything at any time. And I think having that confidence, even when I'm on sets where you're not there, you know, I feel like I can speak up and I'm not worried I'm not necessarily going to get asked back. And, you know, I have had that experience where I've had to maybe say something, you know, and it is a bit nerve-wracking, but because of that confidence, you know, you feel like you can speak up and it's not going to be taken, like, aggressively. But it is difficult. It's difficult in every industry, I think.
Yeah, I think the thing that we do is when our mentors sign up, we have a mentor info pack, which is a list of guidelines and how they should behave and how they should treat mentees and, I guess, people in general. And then what we make very clear to our mentees is that we are always here, because all of us who run the Active List have all experienced some kind of bullying or harassment at work, and we didn't have people who we could go to, and we want to be those people for our mentees. And then I guess, like, I set up a WhatsApp group for loaders of colour, so it's experienced trainees and loaders, and that's sort of a safe space for us, because even now I've been working in the industry for 8-9 years and I still get racist things happening at work, and if I'm in an all-white camera team, a lot of the time I don't feel comfortable talking about it, but it's nice to be able to go into a corner of set, message this group of 30, 40 people who understand what it's like to do this job looking the way I do, and even just a few messages back saying, oh, we get that, that's horrible, I'm sorry, and then I can carry on with my day. So I guess just support systems is the best thing, because people aren't always nice, and that's not something, I think we can do our best to tackle that, but then being a support system and supporting people when it does happen can make a huge difference as well.
One last one. Well, we will be around outside for a little while afterwards, so if you have a question, then we can just come and... Oh. Go on.
Yeah. you talked a lot about diversifying and opening up cinematography and that part of the industry. And in the last few years, we've seen a move from the industry towards including more disabled talent, especially in front of the camera. And I'm interested if that's something you've been considering in terms of your First Steps program for behind the camera. Are there ways that you've been looking at including people's access requirements or creating more accessible routes for disabled folks to get into camera department?
I mean, that's something we've been talking about. That's not something we've been actively sort of pursuing right now because we're still sort of building everything else up. But absolutely, it's something we've been talking about and definitely something I would love to look into, yes. I think that's another step forward. All right, go on, quick.
I was pretty much going to ask something quite similar. I think I just want to sort of say thank you for everything that you're doing with First Steps and also the Activity List. I think it's really important. The industry is not a great place for a lot of minorities, and it's also really hard to get that first step in, and especially if you don't really know a lot about what you want to do. But especially people who have sort of disabilities, especially like neurodiversities, I feel like it's much harder to get that first step in and be heard and sort of advocate for yourself in certain environments. And I kind of just wanted to ask the question of, like, one, sort of like, how could you sort of like keep that in mind as you're sort of building this program? As you said, you want to start including that, but also like, do you have any advice on how someone, like, regardless of sort of disability, can just advocate for themselves in certain situations?
I mean, I think overall it's just about being heard, like what everybody's saying. It's about us mentors being able to listen and to then facilitate that as much as possible, you know. And I think there is people out there who do those things. Riz actually here has got a great program. So, you know, like I said, it's all in the works, and it's definitely something that we want to improve on. One thing that we're going to be looking at as well this year is about job sharing, for example, making it possible for mothers with children or pregnant women to be able to still work if they want to, but they don't have to commit to a job that's 6 months long. But like I said, the same with the studios who I'm talking to right now. It's speaking to the people, directors, and people at the top, because people don't like to change. People don't like change, and they get very much used to, you know, a crew. And if I say to my director, hey, I'm going to be away for 3 months because I want to see my baby being born and I want to be there for the first 3 months, a lot of the times they might say, well, then I can't give you the job because I want the same DP throughout this film. And that's for a lot of jobs. So that's something we want to look at of how we can, you know, make that better. But we're going to have to finish this now. There's going to be a red light coming up in a second, and they're going to kick us out.
Just very quickly, pretty much all of us who run the Equity List are neurodiverse or have some sort of access requirement. So that sort of is in the forefront of a lot of what we're doing, and we're trying to build more access in. But I guess, as a neurodiverse person or a person with a disability, I would say find one person in the industry who you feel like can help you advocate for yourself, because I don't think if you're just entering, it shouldn't just be your responsibility. That's a lot. So, I mean, we're always here. Just contact us.
Yes, I think it's the same for all of us. You can always be in touch, and the more you guys can tell us what's helpful to you, the better. You know, we take everything in. And anyway, thank you very much. They're going to cut me off in a second. So thank you very much for coming. And it's great because you always show support of this. So thank you. And thank you guys.